This is a story about two souls, lost in the busy labyrinths of New York, who found their sanctuary in each other. Crossroads of destiny in the city that never sleeps. New York, a city of endless noise, shimmering lights, and millions of lonely hearts seeking their place in the sun. It was here, at the intersection of 5th Avenue and 59th Street, amidst the roar of taxis and the rush of tourists, that their worlds collided for the first time. Emilia, a young and talented artist from Ukraine, who had come to conquer the American dream, stood captivated, gazing at the majestic Plaza Hotel. Her sketchpad slipped from her hands, and her paint scattered across the rain-slicked sidewalk. "Allow me to help," a deep, velvety voice with a slight British accent said. She looked up and met the most enchanting emerald eyes she had ever seen. This was Alan, a financier from London, who had come for a few weeks on business and had just stepped out of the hotel. They both felt that electric current passed between them, an instant, compelling attraction usually found only in the movies. Alan helped her gather her scattered supplies. Their fingers brushed, and time seemed to slow down in the eternal rush of Manhattan. "Pardon my clumsiness," Emilia whispered, feeling her cheeks flush. "No worries at all. Some of the best moments in life start with a little chaos," Alan smiled, his expression warm and genuine. "I'm Alan." Emilia. Thus began their story, a chance encounter that felt like fate. The following days turned into a kaleidoscope of romantic dates. Alan postponed his return to London, extending his business trip under fabricated pretenses, while Emilia discovered New York anew, seeing it through the eyes of a woman in love. They walked through Central Park under the golden autumn sun, fed pigeons by the Bethesda fountain, and spent evenings on the rooftop of his rented penthouse, with a view of the Empire State Building glowing with a million lights. Their conversations lasted for hours. They discussed art, philosophy, their childhood dreams, and their fears. Alan was struck by the depth of her soul and her passion for painting, while Emilia discovered a sensitive nature beneath the veneer of the reserved businessman. One evening, after dinner at a small Italian restaurant in Greenwich Village, where they laughed until they cried over old jokes, Alan stopped a cab sooner than planned. He led Emilia to the Brooklyn Bridge. The night was cool, but their hearts were ablaze. Under the shimmer of the city lights and the sound of the water below, Alan put his arm around her shoulders. "Emilia, this city is filled with noise, but when I'm with you, all I hear is silence and the beat of your heart," he whispered, looking into her eyes. He kissed her gently. It was a kiss full of promises, hopes, and profound tenderness. In that moment, they both understood that their feeling had gone far beyond a casual fling. This was real, deep love. The tension between them grew with every touch, with every glance. Their desire for each other was almost palpable. It hung in the air, like the smell of paint in her studio, or Alan's expensive cologne. The evening that changed everything arrived. Alan invited her back to his place. The penthouse was dimly lit, soft jazz music played on the terrace, and the window offered a spectacular view of nighttime Manhattan. They danced a slow dance, pressed close together. Alan's hands roamed her back, and her palms rested on his shoulders. Their every movement was filled with tenderness and passion. "You are so beautiful, Emilia," he rasped, his voice thick with desire. He lifted her into his arms and carried her to the bedroom. The room was bathed in moonlight. Their first time was not just a physical act, it was a fusion of souls. They moved in unison, their bodies becoming one. The touches were gentle yet demanding, the kisses deep and wild. They discovered new facets in each other, exploring bodies and souls with curiosity and adoration. That night, they didn't just make love, they built a bridge between two continents, two lives, two hearts. Every moan, every breath, every shiver of skin was a symphony of their union. They gave themselves over to their feelings completely, holding nothing back, experiencing absolute trust and unity. Morning of a new life, they woke up at dawn, tangled in the sheets and in each other's embrace. The sunrise over the city painted the sky in orange and pink hues, casting soft reflections on their happy faces. Emilia ran her fingers over Alan's chest, feeling the warmth of his skin and the steady beat of his heart. She had never felt such peace and completeness before. Alan woke up, saw her loving gaze, and smiled. "Stay with me, Emilia," he said, unexpectedly serious. "Not just today. Always. We can move to London. Or we can stay right here. It doesn't matter where. What matters is who." Emilia didn't hesitate for a second. She found her happiness not in paintings, not in a career, but in the eyes of this man. They decided to stay in New York. Alan transferred to the New York office of his company, and Emilia opened her own studio in Brooklyn. The city that had once seemed so cold and indifferent became their home, a place where a million lights illuminated their shared path. Their story forever remained proof that even in the world's largest and fastest city, among millions of rushing people, there is always a chance to meet your true destiny. You just need to sometimes look up and believe in a miracle. Their story didn't end with the dawn over Manhattan. It had only just begun. The next few years were a testament to how a chance encounter can grow into a strong foundation for a life together, full of challenges, joys, and deep connection. The first step was meeting the families. This is always a thrilling moment, especially when relatives live on different continents. Alan and Emilia decided to spend Christmas in London with his parents. Alan's parents, reserved but extremely hospitable Brits, were charmed by Emilia. Her Slavic directness and warmth melted any formality. They immediately sensed how much their son had changed next to her. The following summer, the couple flew to Ukraine. It was a journey full of emotion. Emilia's parents, with their traditional hospitality, organized a real celebration. Alan, who had only seen Ukraine in pictures before, was impressed by the country's beauty and the sincerity of the people. He enjoyed learning to pronounce palyanitsia and drinking delicious borscht, feeling like a part of a large and vibrant family. Friends quickly became integrated into their life together. Alan's best friend Marcus, a witty financier, immediately hit it off with Emilia's friend Sarah, an art critic. Soon, their double dates in cozy New York bars became a cherished tradition. They were not just two friends, they were a community of support that helped them navigate their New York routines. Tiny feet in the Big Apple, the decision to have children was natural and desired. 3 years after they met, Emilia became pregnant. The pregnancy was smooth, filled with anticipation and tenderness. Alan transformed into the most caring husband in the world. He read parenting books, set up the nursery, and talked to Emilia's belly every night. Little Sophia was born. Her arrival brought a whole new dimension of love into their lives. Unconditional and all-consuming, they learned to be parents together, sharing sleepless nights, first smiles, and first steps. 2 years later, Sophia had a little brother named Leo. Their Brooklyn apartment, with its view of the Statue of Liberty, turned into a bustling, happy home, filled with children's laughter, scattered toys, and the smell of paint. Emilia continued to paint, often doing portraits of her children now. Life wasn't a perfect fairy tale. There were work stresses, financial challenges, and arguments about whose turn it was to get up with the kids at night. But their love, tempered by New York storms and quiet family evenings, withstood everything. Alan, watching his wife standing by the easel with their 2 children playing peacefully nearby, felt a deep gratitude for fate. A chance encounter in the rain on 59th Street had given him an entire universe. New York continued to hum and rush outside the window, but in their home, time moved differently. They created their own small, perfect world in the middle of the city that never sleeps. Their love story became an endless narrative of how 2 strangers can become one, build a family, and find their everlasting happiness. Emilia and Alan's life continued, filled with the ordinary joys and inevitable challenges of adult family life. Their Brooklyn home was a busy hub of activity, where Emilia's art met Alan's organization, and the children's laughter from Sophia and Leo was a constant soundtrack. Raising kids in the big city, educating and raising children in New York was not an easy task. They wanted the children to feel their mixed heritage. Sophia and Leo spoke 2 languages, English in school and among themselves, but at home with their mother, they often switched to Ukrainian, which Alan gladly learned alongside them. The children grew into vibrant individuals. Sophia, like her mother, showed a flair for drawing, spending hours in her mother's studio, mixing paints and creating abstract masterpieces on paper. Leo, on the other hand, was more like his father, inquisitive, logical. He loved building blocks and math games, always asking his parents a million questions about how the world worked. Alan and Emilia tried to find a balance between discipline and freedom. They took the children to all the city's museums, walked in the parks, and often spent summers in Ukraine or England so that the children would not lose touch with their roots. They nurtured empathy, independence, and a love of learning in them, knowing that these qualities would help them in any city in the world. London shadows, the ordeal of illness. As the children grew older and went to school, the couple's life settled into a calm rhythm. But fate, as always, had a new test prepared. One evening, Alan received a call from London. It was from his sister. The news was disheartening. His father, Sir Alistair, had been diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's disease. The news hit the family hard. Alan immediately flew to London to assess the situation. Emilia, as always, was his rock of support, taking on all the domestic chores and reassuring the children who sensed their parents' anxiety. The disease developed slowly but relentlessly. Alan's parents were proud and independent people, and it was difficult for them to accept help. Alan spent several months trying to set up a care system, looking for the best doctors and arranging for sitters. Emilia and the children joined him for the summer. They tried to support Grandpa Alistair and Grandma Margaret. Emilia used her creative approach. She drew with her grandfather, looked at old photographs, helping him to stimulate his memory. The children brought light and laughter into the house, momentarily scattering the gloomy shadows of the disease. It was a tough period. Alan was torn between his job in New York, his family there, and his duty as a son. He and Emilia had long talks at night, making difficult decisions. Eventually, they agreed that Alan would fly to London monthly, and Emilia and the children would come during vacations. They also helped the parents find an experienced caregiver who lived with them. This crisis only strengthened their marriage. They realized that love is not just romance under the moon, but also daily support, the ability to sacrifice one's own comfort for the sake of the other, and the strength to withstand the toughest blows of fate together. Life went on. They aged, their children grew, and their parents needed more attention, but they were ready for anything. After all, they were a team, united by the love that began on a rainy day at the intersection of Fifth Avenue, and which now illuminated all the dark corners of their life together. The crisis with Alan's parents became a turning point, exposing nerves and forcing them to confront their deepest fears. Emotions engulfed them like a tsunami, turning their measured life into a wild vortex of despair, tenderness, and unrestrained passion that flared up with new force. The vortex of emotion and despair. Every call from London was a blow. Margaret's voice, Alan's mother, trembled with hidden pain as she recounted how Alistair forgot the grandchildren's names, how he wandered the garden at night looking for a house that no longer existed. Alan felt torn between two worlds. His job at the New York office, which demanded iron composure, now seemed like a farce. His soul yearned for his parents. He became irritable, withdrawn, and dark circles under his eyes testified to sleepless nights spent in anxious thoughts. Emilia felt his pain as her own. She saw how this strong, reserved man, her pillar and her love, was slowly fading. One evening, after the children were asleep, Alan sat on the sofa, staring out the window at the city lights shimmering over the bridge. Emilia walked over, sat down beside him, and silently took his hand. "I don't know what to do, Emilia," he whispered, and for the first time in years she saw tears in his emerald eyes. "He's fading. My father is fading, and I'm here, powerless." Emilia pulled him close. Her own emotions erupted with compassion. She felt a sharp pain for this injustice, for the time that could not be reversed. That night, their relationship reached an emotional climax. They didn't talk about the disease or plan the future. There was only the present, filled with despair and the need to feel life here and now. They went to the bedroom. Emilia looked at Alan with a gaze full of love, compassion, and desire. She wanted to remind him how alive he was, how desired, despite all the pain in the world. "Look at me, Alan. I'm here." "We are here." Her voice trembled with tension. He looked up, and a spark flashed in his eyes, displacing the despair. He lunged for her. It wasn't just sex. It was a fusion of two souls, a cry for help, an answer to a prayer. Their touches were wild, demanding. They kissed as if it were the last time, taking all the pain from each other and giving all the tenderness they were capable of. Their bodies moved in a single rhythm, full of primal passion. Emilia felt her heart beating in unison with his, as they both tried to grasp this moment of happiness amidst the grief. They cried out not from pleasure, but from emotional overload, from the fear of loss, from the love that was overwhelming them. They felt absolute unity, a catharsis that cleansed them of anxiety, if only for this single night. The next morning, Alan woke up a different man. He felt exhausted but strangely calm. Emilia was asleep next to him, her face peaceful and beautiful. He understood. They were stronger than any illness, any distance. Their love was their shield and their weapon. Alan made a decision. He couldn't leave his parents alone with this trial. He decided to transfer to the London office of his company permanently. This meant uprooting their established life in New York, taking the children away from their friends, and leaving Emilia's studio. When he told Emilia about his decision, she just smiled and hugged him. "Where your family is, that's my home, Alan. We'll manage." New York said goodbye to them with a bright, sunny day. They stood at the airport, hugging Marcus and Sarah. There were tears in everyone's eyes. They were leaving a piece of their heart in this city, but they were taking the most valuable thing with them, their strong, battle-tested family. Their story continued, moving across the ocean, but they learned the main lesson. True love fears no trials. It only grows deeper, more passionate, and stronger in the face of the inevitable. The move to London was the beginning of a new, equally difficult phase. The city greeted them with its typical gloomy weather, but the family held together like a single mechanism. They settled into a cozy house with a small garden in the Chelsea area, closer to Alan's parents. London trials. Alan plunged into work with renewed energy, trying to balance his career and family responsibilities. The children, Sophia and Leo, quickly adapted to the new school, although they missed their New York friends. Emilia set up a small studio in the attic and tried to find her place in the London art world, which proved to be more challenging than in dynamic New York. But the main challenge remained Alistair's illness. His condition worsened. Alan and Emilia spent hours with him every day, trying to preserve the fragile moments of clarity in his consciousness. They read him newspapers, listened to the old classical music he loved, and just sat beside him, holding his hand. Emilia took on the role of the primary caregiver. Her care was boundless. She found special memory exercises, prepared a strict diet, talked to the doctors, translating medical terms from English for Alan, who was too emotionally drained to adequately process the information. She became the guardian angel for the entire family. The struggle lasted almost 3 years. They fought as a whole family, but the disease was relentless. Alistair quietly passed away in his sleep, surrounded by the care and love of his family. His death was a heavy blow, but it also brought relief. He was no longer suffering. The family mourned the loss, learning to live without their patriarch. Emilia was by Margaret's side, Alan's mother, who was struggling with her husband's death. She helped her sort through Alistair's things, transplant his favorite roses in the garden, and simply drank tea with her in silence, offering her warmth. They hadn't even begun to recover from one loss when fate dealt another blow. Stress, grief, and age undermined Margaret's health. A few months later, she suffered a stroke. This was yet another ordeal. Margaret was left partially paralyzed and required constant care. Alan was broken. Only Emilia remained steadfast. She turned the living room in Margaret's house into a temporary hospital ward, organized the nurses' work, and prescribed the medication schedule. Emilia became the linchpin holding the entire family together. She was simultaneously a mother, a wife, a caregiver, a daughter, and an artist. She managed everything, checking Leo and Sophia's homework, cooking dinner, helping Alan with work papers late at night, and most importantly, being there for Margaret. She read books to her mother-in-law in Ukrainian, sang folk songs she remembered from childhood. She believed that music and her native language could break through the fog of the disease. Sometimes Margaret, who barely spoke, would smile in response to a familiar melody. Her own artistic career took a back seat. The easel in the attic gathered dust. But Emilia had no regrets. She knew that her calling right now was to save her family, to give them love and support. Alan looked at his wife every day with a mixture of adoration and guilt. "You're taking on too much, Emilia. You're fading," he said one evening, hugging her in the kitchen. She rested her head on his shoulder. "As long as we're together, we can handle anything, Alan. Our love is stronger than sickness and death." It's our engine. London became for them not just a city, but a battlefield where they fought for every day of peace and happiness. And in this battle, Emilia, the gentle artist from Ukraine, turned out to be the strongest warrior, whose weapon was boundless care and selfless love. Time in London seemed to stand still, turning into an endless, exhausting marathon. Emotions were no longer bright flashes of joy or anger. They became a deep, constant pressure that threatened to tear their souls apart. Each day was a battle, for Margaret's dignity, for Alan's health, for Sophia and Leo's childhood, and ultimately for the survival of their love. Storm in the family life. The tension in the house reached a boiling point. Alan, torn between a demanding job and constant anxiety for his mother, began to snap. His British reserve vanished, replaced by irritation and aloofness. He became a shadowy figure who appeared late in the evening, exchanged polite, empty phrases with Emilia, and locked himself in his study. Emilia felt abandoned. She was a pillar of strength, but even the strongest pillar needs support. She cried into her pillow at night, feeling lonely in this foreign, cold city, burdened by worries that seemed never-ending. One evening, when she returned from another meeting with Margaret's doctor, she found Alan in the study. He was sitting in front of the computer, his face frozen with fatigue. "We need to talk, Alan." Her voice was quiet but resolute. "Not now, Emilia. I have a deadline," he muttered, without taking his eyes off the screen. When? When will your now come? When I collapse from exhaustion? When the children forget what their father looks like? Emotions burst from her in a flood. Alan abruptly turned around. You think this is easy for me? You think I don't wish things were different? I lost my father. My mother is dying before my eyes. I'm trying to hold on to this damn job to provide for all of us. And what am I doing? Emilia shouted, her eyes filling with fury and hurt. I gave up my life, my job, my country for you and your family. I became a caregiver, a nurse, a cleaner. Where is our life, Alan? Where is our love? The room fell silent, filled with the heavy air of unspoken grievances. Alan jumped up. He moved close to her, breathing heavily, his face distorted with pain. Are you blaming me? Do you dare blame me while I'm trying to save what's left of my family? No. I'm trying to save us. You've lost yourself in this grief. You're pushing me away. She hit his chest with her palms. Alan grabbed her hands. For a moment, they froze, looking into each other's eyes. In his gaze, fury changed to despair and unrestrained desire. He pulled her to him and crushed her lips with a harsh, demanding kiss. It was a kiss filled with pain, resentment, fear, and a wild, primal love. They kissed as if they were trying to destroy each other, and then put the pieces back together. Alan swept her into his arms and carried her upstairs to their bedroom. That night, they didn't just make love, they fought and reconciled simultaneously. Their bodies spoke a language understood only by the two of them, a language of despair and passion. Every touch was a demand, every kiss a forgiveness. They gave themselves over to their feelings completely, to the point of screaming, to tears, to the trembling of their whole bodies. They found refuge in each other from the cruel world, from illness, from loneliness. At dawn, they lay embracing. Exhausted but cleansed, the storm had passed, leaving behind silence and understanding. Forgive me, Emilia, Alan whispered, kissing the top of her head. I was blind. I was so afraid of losing them that I almost lost you. And you forgive me, she replied. I was just so tired of being strong. In that moment, they struck an unspoken truce. They were no longer alone in this struggle. They were together. The following months were easier. Alan reduced his workload, they hired another house assistant, and Emilia was able to return to her studio. Margaret passed away 6 months later, peacefully and quietly, holding Alan and Emilia's hands. The pain of loss was strong, but they went through it together, supporting each other. London remained for them a city of trials and losses, but also a city where their love proved its resilience and strength, capable of weathering any storm. After Margaret's death, the house in Chelsea was enveloped in a thick, oppressive silence. The air seemed to still hold the imprint of her presence, the scent of her favorite roses, and the faint aroma of medicine. Alan and Emilia were exhausted, devastated by grief, but held onto each other like life rafts in a cold sea. Margaret's funeral became the final punctuation mark in this painful London chapter of their lives. They stood by the grave, hugging their children, and felt that the time for change had come. We need to go home, Emilia whispered to Alan, looking at the gray London sky. We need the sun. We need our New York. The decision to move back to the US was spontaneous, but the only right one. London had become a city of losses and trials for them. They needed a place that reminded them of the beginning of their love, a happy ending in the city of dreams. Returning to New York was like a breath of fresh air. The city greeted them with its usual noise, energy, and the shimmer of lights that promised a million chances. They found a new apartment with large windows and a terrace overlooking the East River. Emilia reopened her studio, and this time, success came quickly. Her paintings, filled with the pain experienced in London and the light of hope, resonated with New York critics and art lovers. She became a sought-after artist. Her exhibitions gathered full houses, and her work sold at high prices. Alan returned to his old office, where he was greeted with open arms. He had changed. The pain of loss made him a wiser, more empathetic leader. The children grew up happy and well-adjusted. Sophia enrolled in a prestigious art school. Leo became the captain of the school football team, which greatly pleased Alan. But most importantly, their love. They learned to cherish every moment spent together. They no longer took happiness for granted. Every evening, after the children went to bed, they would sit on the terrace, holding hands, and just gaze at the night city. On one such evening, on the anniversary of their meeting on Fifth Avenue, Alan hugged Emilia and whispered, "We went through hell, my Emilia, but we endured. We are home." She looked at him, and the lights of New York reflected in her eyes just as they had 10 years ago. "Yes, we are home, and we earned our happiness, Alan." They kissed, gently, calmly, with a deep understanding that true love does not die, but only grows stronger under the blows of fate. Their story, which began with a chance encounter in the rain in the city of dreams, had found its happy ending. They were home, together, finally happy.